It's been an eventful year for the UFC, whether that be within the octagon or outside. With the return of Conor McGregor to crowning not one but two new dual division champions, the UFC has had a great year. 2018 showed us that a new star can come out of nowhere and solidify themselves as a contender, but also showed that being a UFC champion separates you from everyone else for a reason. Brutal knockouts, slick submissions, comeback victories, and fight of the year candidates. Fans from all over the world were entertained by the shows put on by the UFC. In total, there were 18 championship matches, and from those 18, 12 were finishes. Now, with all that being said, the UFC is obviously not scripted. The outcomes can come out of nowhere and surprise everyone involved. Even events outside of the cage can leave the entire MMA community in shock. Without further ado, I am Sasha Moks of The Complete Knockout, and here are the top 10 most shocking UFC moments of 2018. Number 10. Conor McGregor throws dolly at UFC bus. Oh boy, UFC 223 was fun. The original main event was scheduled to be a match between two of the greatest lightweights alive, with Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on Tony Ferguson. Now, this fight in itself is extremely cursed, as this was the fourth time the fight was cancelled when Tony Ferguson tripped over a wire, tearing the ligament completely off the bone in his knee. But we eventually had Khabib taking on late nose replacement Al Iaquinta for the interim lightweight title. All good until Khabib meets Artem Lobov in the UFC hotel lobby. Khabib and his Dagestani Russian crew surround Artem, confronting him about being a fake Russian and ultimately causing the incident at the bus. Artem then called his best friend Conor McGregor, who grabbed the biggest, meanest group of guys he could find, flew all the way to New York from Ireland to show support to his friend Artem, and I really wish I had friends like that. Conor then famously grabbed the dolly, threw it at the UFC bus window, breaking it and leaving Ray Borg and Michael Chiesa unable to fight on the card, and let us not forget that Rose Namajunas is still shook from the incident. Conor was then sentenced and punished for his actions in the state of New York, but all this really did was add to the promotional value and the marketability of the eventual Conor vs Khabib showdown at UFC 229. Number 9. Tony Ferguson's knee recovery. Speaking of great lightweights and Tony Ferguson, man, what a year he has had. Winning the interim belt in October of 2017 and looking to solidify himself as the greatest lightweight ever, Tony had big plans for 2018. As previously mentioned, he was scheduled for the fourth time to fight Khabib at UFC 223. A freak accident involving his sunglasses and a deadly submission style wire, Tony was left out of the card with a potential career-threatening injury. Tearing the ligament completely off the bone in your knee is an injury with about a 12-month recovery process from post-surgery to rehabilitation to strengthening. Tony said fuck all of that, had surgery, refused rehab from professionals, and decided to take his recovery and treatment in his own hands. Incredibly, within 6 months of his injury, Ferguson took on Anthony Pettis at UFC 229. With Pettis obviously aiming at that knee, no one could believe that Tony was anywhere close to 100%, and oh how wrong we were. Ferguson showed exactly why he is on an 11-fight win streak as he battled Anthony Pettis to an eventual corner stoppage, and he tore his ligament 6 months ago. Number 8. Israel Adesanya. Ah yes, new superstars are one of Dana White's favorite things ever. Young, good-looking, brash, and skillful are all the blueprints to grow another superstar. A lot of people overlook at his monumental 2018. He fought 4 times in the UFC, all within that year, earning himself 3 performance of the night bonuses, and his most recent victory over Derek Brunson has really catapulted the young fighter into stardom. Dana White has already made plans for the youngster heading into 2019, as he is currently booked to fight former pound-for-pound great and king of the middleweights Anderson Silva, where the winner is promised a title shot. Adesanya brings more to the table than his impressive skills as a martial artist. He has an epic personality, mixing in humor with confidence is a breath of fresh air. With 4 fights sealed in 2018, it appears the sky is the limit for the young Nigerian-born superstar. Number 7. Brian Ortega's knockout of Frankie Edgar. I love knockouts, I really do, and I think a lot of MMA fans from all over the world do too. But when it's a surprise knockout by a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu specialist against one of the all-time MMA greats who has never been knocked out, it makes it all that much better. At UFC 222 in the co-main event, we saw former lightweight champion Frankie Edgar take on undefeated rising prospect Brian Ortega. The winner was guaranteed a shot at Max Holloway's featherweight belt. MMA fans were left asking themselves, will Edgar go for the takedown? Will this fight be a pure stand-up boxing fest? Will Ortega manage another slick submission? Almost every outcome was thought of, but I don't think anyone at the T-Mobile Arena or watching at home foresaw Brian Ortega landing an uppercut from hell in the first round, handing Edgar his first and only knockout loss of his entire career. Ortega had made his presence known in the MMA world after this. The devastating knockout earning not only performance of the night, but also a title shot. Ortega showed the world that he isn't just another jiu-jitsu guy. Number 6, Yair Rodriguez knockout of the Korean Zombie. I said I love knockouts, but you know what I love even more? Fights that showcase the talents of both fighters in complete wars. At UFC Fight Night 139, the world of MMA was awarded one of the best fights in featherweight history. The Korean Zombie was scheduled to take on Frankie Edgar, but as fate would have it, Edgar pulled out due to injury and allowed Yair to take his place on short notice. It was a quick turnaround for both competitors, but being the professionals that they are, they still agreed to fight. Both fighters left it out there in a 5-round war, with each fighter landing powerful shots and winning respective rounds. It appeared as though the Korean Zombie was going to get the victory over Yair as the 5th and last round was coming to a close. Amazingly, Yair lands one of the craziest knockouts in MMA history. With 1 second left in the last round, El Pantera lands a once-in-a-lifetime backwards-upwards elbow to the Korean Zombie, knocking him out cold. Number 5, the return of Jon Jones. Yes, you knew this would be on the list because how can it not be? Jon Jones is arguably the greatest mixed martial artist to ever walk the planet, yet his whole career is shrouded with doubt and conspiracy. The former light heavyweight champion has had his fair share of run-ins with the law that obviously derailed the further success he could have had within the UFC. After a second fight with Daniel Cormier back in 2017, it was ruled a no contest because Jones was flagged for a metabolite by the USADA. Jones was suspended for 15 months, however, due to some UFC-esque moves with now VP of Health, the Golden Snitch himself, Jeff Nowitzki, he was able to retroactively allow Jones to compete at UFC 232. Fast forward to a week before his return fight, and Lord behold, Jones was flagged again for the same metabolite. If you ask White or Nowitzki, they would tell you Jones did nothing wrong and that he was found with picograms of the supplement. Back to UFC 232. The event, which was scheduled to go down in Las Vegas, Nevada, had to be moved because of Mr. Jones. The Nevada State Athletic Commission would not allow Jones to compete because of his flagged fightings, but the UFC, being the sneaky devils that they are, figured out that the California State Athletic Commission would happily allow Jones to compete. The event was moved, and Jones eventually regained his light heavyweight championship. Number 4, Demetrius Johnson traded to ONE FC. Trades? Can MMA fighters be traded like an NBA, NHL, or NFL? Well, 2018 basically said yes, kind of. Demetrius Johnson, former pound-for-pound #1 ranked fighter, flyweight king, and ultimately an amazing one-of-a-kind fighter, was traded from the UFC roster to join the ranks of ONE FC for exchange for undefeated welterweight standout Ben Askren. The whole MMA community was shocked at this headlining piece of news that the UFC was interested in gaining Askren because of the bad blood he has had with President Dana White in the past, and second because Demetrius Johnson, who has only lost twice in the UFC, was traded. Either way, fans from North America and Asia were left confused but happy, as Asia will now have the chance to appreciate one of the greatest fighters to ever live, while the UFC fans will finally see Ben Askren make his long-awaited UFC appearance within the octagon. Number 3, Amanda Nunes defeats Cris Cyborg. Holy shit. The fact that we got to see a match between two of the greatest female fighters in the world was already gasping enough. The featherweight queen herself, Cris Cyborg, looked unstoppable as she continued to march through opponents one after the other. However, Amanda Nunes is a beast. She is a champion of the bantamweight division and has wins over Valentina Shevchenko, Ronda Rousey, and Miesha Tate. It took 51 seconds for Amanda Nunes to rewrite history and to add herself as the greatest of all time. Not taking anything away from Amanda Nunes, as she was rightfully the biggest challenge of Cris Cyborg's career, but the fact that she knocked Cris Cyborg out and the fact that we saw Cris Cyborg lose was ultimately very, very shocking, to say the least. Number 2, Daniel Cormier knocking Stipe Miocic out in the first round. Speaking of dual division champions, let's talk about Daniel Cormier. He has had himself a very good 2018. He first defended his lightweight heavyweight belt against Volkan Ozdemir at UFC 222 and made it look pretty easy. After that, he would fight against the man who fought on the same card, Stipe Miocic, for Stipe's heavyweight championship at UFC 226. Everyone speculated who would be the winner. Who has the advantage? Was it Stipe, with his sheer size, wrestling background, and knockout power? Or was it Daniel Cormier, with his grit, determination, and Olympic wrestling level prestige? Would he be able to topple Stipe? But whatever the speculation was, no one was able to predict that Daniel Cormier would knock Stipe out cold within the very first round. It almost felt surreal, seeing the massive Stipe Miocic, who was significantly taller than Daniel Cormier, crumble from a right hook landed cleanly by the challenger. What a year it has been for Daniel Cormier, but the moment that shocked the world was that knockout of Stipe Miocic. And at number 1, the Khabib Conor brawl. Nothing says amazement like a post-fight brawl after the most anticipated match in the sport's history. UFC 221 was simply one of a kind. Not only did we finally get to see Conor McGregor return to the octagon, but we saw him square off against the Eagle Khabib Nurmagomedov. The fight itself was not boring. It was, for the most part, a one-sided beating by Khabib. He even knocked the Irishman with a falcon punch-like strike that made everyone jump from their seats, knocking over whatever they may have had on their lap. What shocked the world was what happened after. Tapping Conor out in the 4th round, Khabib immediately let all of his built-up emotion out. He ran straight to Conor's corner, more specifically to Conor's BJJ coach and good friend Dylan Danis. After some heated exchanges, Khabib jumped over the fence and we finally saw the eagle fly, jumping straight into the corner into a brawl, which then led to the eventual brawl inside the octagon by Khabib's teammates attacking Conor McGregor. What a fucking mess. Either way, it was awesome, shocking, and some seriously great promo content. But that is it for this top 10 list. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe for more. For all of your MMA action, news, and interviews. I'm Sasha Moks for the Complete Knockout, and have an excellent day.